Alright, hello everyone, it's Wage and Iverson. I'm back here for another Augment tier list video. This time we're going to be going over the Prismatic Augments, so let's get right into it. And as always, let me know if you like this kind of content. I was thinking about doing some sort of like power up tier list or something like that after, maybe, but yeah, let's get right into it. So first off, Hero Arrives, they removed this from the set, so I'm not going to be ranking any Augments that are removed. Exalted Adventure, I think it's like a solid B tier augment. It's very coin flip. Sometimes you can get like really good combinations of units and cash outs that can like cap you really high and let you win the game, but sometimes you can low roll really hard. So it's an augment I like to take when my opener isn't very good and I don't have a lot of direction, and overall I'd say it's kind of an average prismatic. At what cost is going to go into the C or D tier? I think I am going to put it in the D tier. Not getting to choose your augments is a really big deal, and it doesn't even give you like that crazy amount of econ. Like comparing it to something like the Level Up, like over the course of the game, Level Up is actually going to give you like way more econ than like an at what cost. So I think it's a really bad augment that yeah, just doesn't give enough gold to like justify the downside of the augment. Bastion Circlet, this is the 3-2 Bastion. Right now, vertical bastions are not in a very good spot, and I can't really imagine when you would want to take this. Even in like Bastion Volibear, I was told that this is not very good, so I'll just put it in the D tier. Same thing with Bastion Crown. Bastions are just not very good right now. Battle Academia Circlet. Most of these circlets are going to end up in like C or D tier and are just not worth taking. But I will talk about the good ones. This Battle Academia Crown I think is actually pretty decent. Like if it gives you Guarantee, then you can play into like Jace Caitlyn or like Yuumi. And I think this is actually one of the better crowns. I'm gonna put it in B tier. I would say like if you have Guarantee, or if this augment gives you Guarantee, then you're probably pretty happy to take it. Belt Overflow is a very solid augment. Gonna put it in A tier. If you're like low on tank items, then it's really good. Or if you're playing a comp that uses like 2 tanks, like something like Prodigies, loves Belt Overflow. Birthday Present, I'm very low on. I don't think it's quite D tier bad though. I'll put it in the C tier. It's one of the less good prismatic econ options. You kind of like need to win streak with it, but sometimes it can be like pretty hard to win streak because there's like Build-A-Bud and stuff. And if you're not able to win streak, you would pretty much just rather have like any of the other prismatic econ options like Level Up or Upward Mobility or Hedge Fund. Blazing Soul, I talked a little bit about this in the gold part of the video. I actually might put this in D tier. Like, I'm not sure like when you would be willing to click Prismatic Blazing Soul. Yeah, as I said, like attack speed is like worse on AP units now. It's not good on prodigies, and it's just worse on casters who like don't get as much mana per auto as before with the new rolls. So it does feel quite weak, and yeah, I'm not really sure like what kind of spots you're happy to take this. I think it's just like a D tier augment at the moment. Like you have to be playing a comp that gets value from like multiple units, and like a comp that wants AP, wants attack speed, and has like multiple units that want that. So yeah, I think it just falls into the D tier for now. Bronze for Life is like very nerfed. It doesn't really give a lot of stats, but I think it can be okay in some scenarios if you're getting like at least like 7 or 8 traits. I will put it in the C tier though. After the nerfs, it's like one of the weaker combat options, I would say. Build-A-Bud is pretty solid augment. I would put it in the A tier. Just taking a look at the one cost, I would say like at the moment, like Malphite is really high roll and Sivir's pretty high roll. Like you can play to like Crew, although Malphite's getting nerfed next patch. Zac is probably the worst one, and like some of the Star Guardian and Prodigy stuff can be like really good as well. Buried Treasures is a very good augment. I think it's like a top of A tier kind of augment. It's really scales really well. Like 6 components for Prismatic is really good, and it's also like quite actually strong early game. Having like a 3-item carry, like if it's upgraded, is super valuable. You can take it with an opener, you can take it with no opener. I think it's like a borderline S tier augment. But yeah, I'll put it at top of A tier for now. Call to Chaos is quite a good augment. I would put it in the A tier. It's not quite S tier. There are some low rolls. There's also some high rolls. But overall, it feels quite strong right now. Just make sure that like before you take this, you're like thinking through like how well can I use econ in my spot? Am I gonna instantly lose the game if I get like XP? Like if I'm playing like a reroll comp, How well can I use like the items like snipers, hull crushers, stuff like that. So just think through the options before you take it. But it is quite good. Caretaker's Chosen, I think it's like similar to Buried Treasures. I really like this augment right now. I think item augments are really valuable. So I think it's a very solid A tier option. Coordination is going to be B tier. I think it's just okay. The Tactician's Crown is weaker than an average item, so you can put it on your carry for a little while, but you want to move off of it eventually. And yeah, I mostly like this in comps that really like having an extra slot. So like maybe if we're like stuck on level 8 with like a Prodigy board, we get to fit 5 Prodigy, 5 Battle Academia. Or if we're playing like Star Guardians, then we get to like fit a Kobuko on our board or like a Cassante. So yeah, I like this in comps that like to have like the extra slots a lot. Crystal Gambit Circlet is a bit hard to rank. I will just put it in D tier. It's probably usually very troll to take this and coin flip. Same thing with the Crown. I find 2-1 Crystal Gambit to be like, you really need a lot of like econ to play Crystal Gambit, and you also need Ash items, and taking this on 2-1 doesn't help you get either of those. Cybernetic Uplink 3 is going to be a C or a D tier augment. I think I might put it in the C tier. I feel like it can have some spots where it's like okay in like source or like quality over quantity, like if we already have like tons of items. But it is definitely a bit of a weaker augment. And yeah, we really need like a lot of items to take advantage of it, and 3 mana per second is not anything crazy anyways. Duelist Circlet, I'm also going to put this in the D tier. The Duelist emblem is not really that useful in vertical duelists. Like, it's not like it doesn't let us like play anything crazy. So yeah, I don't think duelists like Duelist emblem that much, and yeah, the power of these circlets is just generally quite low. Duelist Crown, however, I'm a little bit more high up on. It gives a Kraken, which is really nice, and can sometimes help us like win streak. Like if we play like a Duelist Kraken Gnar with like Golden Edge, that could be like quite good. But I think I'll put it in B tier. Edgelord Circuit, another D tier. I'm just gonna put both of these in D tier because the Edgelord emblem is currently bugged, and I don't think it's getting fixed on the PvE either. Executioner Circlet. This is actually one of the more decent circlets. I feel like if you had to take it in Rise, it might not be the end of the world. I'll put it in C tier though. You're not happy to take this by any means. Executioner Crown gives a Striker's Flail and a Katarina. I think, yeah, Executioner +1, like, I can imagine like this into Rise being like a pretty good line. I would be a little bit scared of being like contested by someone with like an Egon augment or something. But I'll be putting it in the B tier because it gives a solid emblem and item. Expected Unexpectedness, I think this is just a B tier augment. Rolling triple gold is usually pretty bad, but if you roll like a mix of gold, items, units, stuff that gives your board combat, then it can be pretty good. And there are some like high rolls like getting like artifact or like 1% like radiant item and stuff. But overall, I consider it to be like a pretty average augment. And it's basically an econ augment. You can basically think of it like that. Final Ascension is going to be a C or a D tier augment. I might just put it in the D tier. I don't think I've ever seen this augment look good, even in setups where like you would think that your team is going to stay alive a really long time. It's just 15 seconds is way too. It just takes way too long to get value from the augment. Like fights are too fast right now or something. Flexible is going to be B or A tier. I think I will put it B tier. It feels like very coin flip. I like taking this more if I have like a Reforger. Also, if it's like a gold opener or like a gold portal, then it can feel better. But sometimes if it's like not a gold portal and you take flexible, you're just like too poor to like hit your board. Yeah, as with a lot of prismatics, there can be like some big high rolls with this, but also some big like low rolls. Going long is going to be C or D tier. The D tier is looking quite full. I guess compared to some of these crowns and emblems, maybe going long is like a little more takeable than them. So we can put it in the C tier for now. This is like an augment with like probably a pretty high top 4 rate, but you're never going to win. You're going to cap really low with this, but you're going to get like a lot of tempo to like maybe go like 4th or 5th. Prismatic Greater Moonlight. Is this still in the game? I'm fairly certain they removed this from the game. So I'm not going to rank it. I could be wrong though, but I haven't seen it even once. Hard Commit. I think it's a little bit better than some of these C tier options. I'm going to be putting hard commit in the B tier. I think especially if you're like a newer player or like a more casual player, this can like just give you like a lot of direction that makes your game like really easy to play. But I feel like even in higher elos, I consider this augment to be like slightly underrated, and yeah, I think it's like a decent option if you have like no direction. It's probably like low B tier or like top of C tier though. It's not really anything that great. This became a gold augment, so we'll move on to heavyweight circlet is probably another D tier option. Heavyweight crown I think is not D tier though. Like this one gives a full item. I think it can be kind of useful for like win streaking, like if you have like a juggernaut plus like heavyweight opener, like heavyweight mundo or something. I think it will probably be like somewhere in the C tier though. Hedge fund also gonna be probably like a C tier augment, maybe like a high-ish C tier augment. It's a bit better in like gold opener, scuttle puddle, crab rave, but it's still not too crazy, and it's still usually one of the less good econ options. Hold the line is going to be A tier. I really like this in prodigies. I really like this if we're like 6 juggernaut plus backline, 6 bastion plus backline, that kind of stuff, like playing like a vertical tank trait. And yeah, I also think it's like really great in like prodigies as well, or just any comp that wants the flat stats and plays like a backline carry. So overall, I consider it like quite a strong combat augment. Invested plus is the weaker of the investeds, but it can still be a pretty good option for fast 9. I think it can be like somewhere in the B tier, and invested plus plus I would probably put in the A tier. Yeah, these are both like pretty good options for fast 9. Also, sometimes if you're like contested reroll or you're just like really poor and you need to hit your board, then they can kind of bail you out from some bad spots. Honestly, I do find myself clicking these a lot, so I could see them going a bit higher, but I think this like invested plus gives kind of little gold. So I'll just leave them in the A and B tier for now. Prismatic investment strategy is definitely, I feel like it's a C tier augment. Maybe like somewhere low in the C tier as well. You kind of need like a gold opener to consider this, like Scuttle Puddle, Crab Rave, and even then it doesn't actually give you that much more HP than the gold investment strategy. Like I think this one's 8. It's 8 max permanent health, and your interest is increased to 7, and the gold one is 7 max permanent health. So they're actually like pretty close, and this doesn't even give you a crazy amount of gold or anything. Like I think sometimes this augment can be pretty good, but like gold opener or is like mandatory to even think about this augment, and even then you're probably not taking it most of the time. Isekai is quite nerfed. I think it's probably in the B tier, and I guess I can rank them a little bit differently. Like I would say the Prodigy one is like a bit lower. Well, honestly, it kind of just depends on the strength of the comps. Like the Prodigy one could be like decent in Prodigies and give us like 5 Prodigy on level 8. When this augment gave a Hodge, it was like really good, like probably A or S tier. But when they removed the Hodge, most of the time we're not going to have enough items to actually like itemize the Ekko. And the Ekko is like not super strong as a unit. I would say like a 2-star 4 cost is gonna like pretty consistently like outperform him. He usually only gets like 1 cast off. So I would say it's like B tier, and if we can use the +1 well, then we can take it. Or if we have like a ton of items maybe. But yeah, it does feel like really hard to have enough items to itemize Ekko now that it doesn't actually give us any item. Juggernaut Circlet is going to be another D tier circlet. Juggernaut Crown is a little bit better, probably put it in the C tier. Again, the reasoning being that this one gives us like a full item, this one only gives us a component. Level Up's quite solid. I think it's B or A tier. I think I'm going to go into the A tier. I think it's one of the better econ prismatics, and Fast 9 can be like quite a strong strategy right now with like Varus and TF and those kinds of comps. I guess one thing is like Level Up generally prefers to win streak, and something like Hedge Fund or like Upward Mobility tends to lose streak, so maybe just keep that in mind. Living Forge is like an easy S tier. This might even be like S plus tier. Artifacts are so good right now, and there's also so many like broken insta-win combinations of artifacts. For example, like Fish Bones plus Snipers on like some of the melee units, or like Mana Zane plus Blighting Jewel on some of the like Malzahar, Yuumi kind of stuff. So artifacts that are broken, and they also combo well together, making that like an easy S tier. Luchador Circlet, I think most of these circlets are going to end up in the D tier, not going to talk about them too much. Luchador Crown, probably C or D tier. I guess I'll put it C tier, but you can't really activate for Luchador until you have like a Volibear who's a 4-cost. So this one might actually be like D tier. But I guess I can imagine if it gives you like Mundo 2, maybe you could consider it. Lucky Gloves is probably like, I would say both of them are probably like C tier. The 2/1/1 is like, I guess I would say it's usually like a below average augment, but if we have rolled the dice, it can be pretty good. Or if we already have like one or multiple TGs, then it can be pretty good. But it's a very low cap augment, like you're almost never winning the game with Lucky Gloves. And yeah, it does give us like decent tempo, but I would consider it like a below average augment. Max cap is probably going to be into the A tier. This can bail us out of some like really bad spots. I think it's like maybe like the single best like augment for like Kaisa, and like yeah, if we're just playing reroll and we're in like kind of a bad spot, then this can turn like 7ths and 8ths into like 4ths and 3rds like really easily. But yeah, just make sure you're like rerolling like 2 or 3 cost reroll, and like you're kind of like poor or in a bad spot, and then that's when we would take it. Mess Hall is gonna be like, I don't actually think this is a D tier augment. It's not going to be offered on 2/1 anymore after the next patch, and yeah, I think in some stuff like Juggernaut Ash, it can actually be like an okay combat option. Maybe it is D tier just because there's like not a lot of comps that can use it well. But yeah, if we're doing like vertical Juggernaut setup, and it also synergizes like quite well with Shadow Clone, I believe. Yeah, maybe I will put it in D tier actually. It's pretty bad. 9 lives, A tier, very solid. 2/1 Prismatic. Gives us like econ items, like combat power, kind of everything we need. I don't think it's like quite S tier after the nerfs, but I do consider it to be like quite good. 1 buff, 2 buff, also an A tier option. Like if we don't already have anti-heal and we're playing like 4 cost and we can use like the champion duplicator, it's really good. And blue buff is like a really nice and like flexible item now that can, you know, go on like so many different units, like even like Braum and like Varus and just any like melee ranged carries. So it gives like 2 flexible items and a champion dupe to like help his our board. This is probably like a high A tier augment to me. Prismatic Pandoras, this is much better on 2/1 than it is later in the game. I think I will put it in the B tier. I think in 2/1 maybe it's like closer to A tier, and later on it's just going to be we're taking it because like our items are bad. Yeah, not anything like too crazy about it. It just gives us like a radiant item and lets us like pick the rest of our items. Prismatic Destiny, I think I'll also put it in the A tier. A lot of these like C tier augments, like with Prismatic Destiny, become like quite viable. Like for example, if we get like investment strategy plus 5 gold, or like Lucky Gloves plus 5 gold, then that becomes like an average or like an above average augment. So that's why I consider like Prismatic Destiny to be pretty good. Yeah, so I would say it's like, yeah, if we don't have anything that we're like super happy about, then I think we're definitely allowed to click Prismatic Destiny. Prismatic Pipeline is actually getting removed from the game. Prismatic Ticket will be, I think it will be in the B tier. Prismatic Ticket usually likes to play into 1 cost reroll. I would think it's mostly just like crew kind of setups right now. It does cap us like kind of low, and there isn't really any reroll that's like OP enough that like, oh, if we hit, we're like guaranteed to, you know, like top 4 like win the game. Like for example, last set this augment was like really good because we could just play Cypher reroll and like guaranteed hit our board. But there's not really any reroll that's like that OP right now. But I would think it's just like okay for reroll if we're like scared of missing, or just have a lot of money or something. Prodigy Circlet, this used to give a Yuumi, and it was actually quite good when I gave a Yuumi. Now it gives a Malzahar. Probably D tier. Prodigy Crown is probably C tier just because it gives a Shojin, which is really awkward and not a good item in Prodigies. Protagonist is going to be A or B tier. I think I'm actually going to put it up in the A tier. I think Zac is like still really good. I've seen Garen do really well with and without Rageblade. I think we just need to, like, in a 5 component start, this becomes much better. And yeah, we just need to make sure that we have like pretty good components for like whatever hero augment we get. Also, Kennen's getting a buff next patch, so that should make it a little bit better. That 4-star Kennen actually works again, so I think this is a pretty good augment. Protector Circlet, B tier. Actually, maybe this one's B tier because I think that the Circlet is one of the Protector Emblem is like definitely one of the stronger emblems in the game. I think I showed this in my gold augment tier list, but it's like one of Poppy's best items. Because the emblem itself is very strong. So just for that, I'll move it up a tier. Prismatic pumping up, I think is also going to fall into the D tier. If you actually somehow make it to like a late game board that uses like a lot of attack speed with Prismatic pumping up, it can be like kind of good, but it's just so unrealistic, and there's like so few comps that just want like so much attack speed right now. Like maybe it would just be like Ashe, and that's about it. Yeah, maybe off of like Golden Edge Gnar, this could be like okay. I think I am just going to leave it in the D tier though. I do feel like I'm taking these C tier augments like much more often than pumping up. QOQ I'll put in the B tier. I would say it's an augment that's like very important to tempo with. If we are loose streaking with QOQ, we're probably not going to have a lot of fun. But if we have like upgrades and like a few items and it can make our board like really strong, then I consider it to be like really, really good in certain spots. So just need to think about like what's good in our spot. Refractor is great. This might actually be another S tier. I think Refractor is another S tier. Like there's almost no comp that doesn't like can't use Radiant right now. All the like melee carries and yeah, like pretty much every comp uses Refractor well in the, so yeah, I think this is like definitely an S tier augment. And yeah, just make sure to go look into the Explorer like what the best Radiant for your comp is, but yeah, Radiants feel like really good in every comp, so long as like we can actually make sure that we're getting the best Radiant for our comp. Relics is going to be A or B tier. I do like it more on 2-1 than later in the game. It's definitely weaker than Refractor. Like the ability to pick the Radiant that we're getting is like so valuable. I'll put it as like a high B tier augment. Roll the dice. Also probably a solid B tier augment. I think the spots for roll the dice is like if we have like a random like Volibear 2, Akali 2, that kind of stuff with no items, or like we're rerolling and we have like you know, some sort of like a melee carry that can use like a roll the dice wall, then it could be really good. Or if we're just like too low on items, we could also put it on like a Cassante or something. Yeah, I think both roll the dice and relics are like pretty above average, but maybe like top of B tier or low A tier kind of augments. Maybe I'll come back to that. Trimmer Scale Essence I like a lot. I think Mogul's Mail is super great right now. Gambler's Blade is not as great, but it can be pretty decent, and often we can just reforge it later. I think this is like probably a high A tier augment. I don't know if I'm quite like S tier on it, but it is really great. It's definitely A tier to me. Shopping Spree performs really well in metas where there's like one super broken 4-cost comp. Like to hard force a specific 4-cost comp, it's probably like one of the best, or like maybe the single best augment for doing that. Because you just get so many rerolls on level 8. I'd say like in the current meta where Rise is like super broken, this is like super like solid augment for just forcing Rise. I think it's gonna be B tier though, because it's not really that good for much else, mostly just for forcing like one specific 4-cost comp. Some more circlets. This is probably a D tier. This is probably also a D tier. Sorcerer Circlet. This one actually, does it still give a karma? But sorcerers don't really like the sorcerer +1 too much. I'll just put it in the D tier. Sorcerer Crown. It's probably C or D tier. Sorcerers are quite bad right now, so I'll just put it in the D tier, just off the meta. But if they were better in the meta, maybe it could be like C tier. But yeah, sorcerers don't really like the emblem too much. Soul Fighter Circlet. This gives a Callista. It's easily in the D tier. This one gives us a Shojin. I think if we have like Callista too, It could be kind of decent. Samira also ended up getting buffed into the next patch, and Soul Fighter +1 is really nice in the comp because it guarantees us 8 Soul Fighters on level 8. So I think I'll put it in the B tier. Sponging I really like. I don't think it's an S tier augment because it's just not as like good in like every single scenario. But if we're playing like a vertical frontline like Juggernaut, Bastion, Protector, and we can sponging like Warmog's Vow, just any tank item, we can get like insane value from it. Also, yeah, just comps that can use like tons of items and like everyone kind of contributes sort of comps like Mentor or Star Guardian also use this augment really well, or Fast 9. So I think sponging is like a really good augment. Star Guardian Circlet is probably one of the best circlets. The Star Guardian emblem is like so strong in the comp that I almost consider this to be takeable. It's probably C or B tier. I think I'll put it like top of C tier or something. Star Guardian Crown is definitely a good augment if we have like a strong Star Guardian opener. I think it might even be in... Yeah, I think this was probably making it into the A tier. Spoils of War, I'm a big Spoils of War hater. I also think that Prismatic is like probably the weakest Spoils of War, and it's so hard to win rounds down a Prismatic. I think I will probably be putting this in the D tier. Starter Kit is probably like a low C tier augment. This is another one of those like high top 4 rate, low win rate augments, except it's kind of just understated. So it's probably gonna be like decent top 4 rate, low win rate, and low average. Yeah, I consider it to be pretty below average. Strategist Circlet. This is like also probably like a C tier circlet. Strategist Emblem can be really good sometimes. But yeah, you can see I'm really not excited about circlets in general. Supreme Soul Circlet is like, this is probably like F tier. Supreme Soul's Crown. Kaisa doesn't actually like having like a Supreme Soul +1, but it gives Kaisa an Last Whisper. And just off that, maybe I'll put it in the C tier. Sword Overflow is a very good augment. I think it's like easy A tier. If we're playing like Kate Jace, then it's like one of the best augments we can hit. But yeah, any AD comp that can like use like a lot of like items and like carries like Jinx Volibear type stuff can be really good with this. If we're like low on items or just like can use like DB well. Also, sometimes you're playing like Volibear and we just have like, I don't know, belt, chain, cloak that we like can't use, and then we hit Sword Overflow and all of a sudden we can make like Sterax, BT, Edge of Night. So yeah, sometimes this augment can like really bail you out and be a really good augment. Tactician's Kitchen, I think I'm also putting this in the A tier. I feel like reading it shouldn't be that good, but usually when I play it or like see other people play it, it looks quite good. And I think it's just because there's like a lot of like comps that can use like a +2. Like this essentially gives you like a +2 because it gives us a pawn and an emblem. And yeah, sometimes that can feel like really nice. Tiniest Titan is probably D tier. Even with Crystal Gambit, it doesn't really let us get like any crazy cash outs. And yeah, it just doesn't give like enough gold or like HP to justify taking it. This one is probably more like C, like bottom of C tier. If our spot is like really bad, like really poor, low HP, no streak type of deal, then maybe we can take this and try to salvage like 7th or 6th or something with the extra HP and gold. But yeah, I'm really not excited about either of these two augments, even with Crystal Gambit, when in the past these augments would usually pair like really well with the Fortune trait. But yeah, Crystal Gambit, this set is just a little bit too like inflexible with the cash out timings, I would say, that this doesn't always get you like an extra cash out, or it rarely gets you an extra cash out. Tomb Raider to me is like a C tier augment. I consider it to be like a lot better than Golden Egg, which I guess we'll get to in a second. It gives you some immediate combat power, and I think it can turn some like high HP spots into firsts. I think it's like a bit too situational to be like any higher than C tier. But yeah, I think we're really ahead and like we're guaranteed to outplace like 1 or 2 people. By the time we have 3 items, it's already a very solid Prismatic augment, and then it scales into like 6+ items. I guess 6 items because we'll be in a 1v1. And at that point, it feels like we're kind of unbeatable in that 1v1 with the 6 items as our Prismatic. Golden Egg, however, is going to be a D tier augment. Just way too hard to proc, and even when we do proc it, we're not really like guaranteed to win the game or anything sometimes. That being said, I guess one thing I will say about Golden Egg is that like if you're in like kind of a lower elo and you like scout around and people have some like really bad boards and you know you can catch it for free, then it could be a decent option. But yeah, at like a challenger level, more often than not, I see it go like very wrong, and that's when people are already clicking it in like kind of insane spots. And I actually see like so often people cash this out and just don't win anyways. And it's so hard to cash out. Trifecta, I'm pretty low on this augment. I'll put it in the C tier. I think it just like doesn't give enough stats. But in some sort of like Senna, Yasuo, Udyr reroll, it can be like kind of decent. And maybe like Caitlyn Jace or like, I don't know, some sort of like monster trainer setup, it can be like kind of acceptable. But I think it is like a little bit understated. So I'll put it in the C tier. Unlimited power is pretty solid. I think I will put it in the B tier though, because sometimes we already have like anti-heal, which kind of stops us from taking it and feels kind of awkward. And like we can't take it in Rise, for example, right? Because like we can't really use the Morello well. So I think it's like a little bit more inflexible than like Sword Overflow, even though it gives like the same amount of components. Yeah, I think Wand Overflow. It's funny that Wand Overflow and Unlimited Power are both in the game, but Wand Overflow I'd say is like a bit better than Unlimited Power, just because like we can take it when we already have anti-heal, and like, and the Rod can probably just become Morello anyways if we wanted to, and it does give like, you know, a tiny bit of like attack speed and like stats that the other one doesn't. Trickster's Treat got removed a while ago. Upward Mobility, another A tier solid econ option. Yeah, pretty good for Fast 9, pretty good for level 8 as well, like if we're just lose streaking into like a strong, like an OP level 8 comp, then I think this can be like a really good option. Next, Wandering Trainer, I think this is a C or a D tier augment. I think I am going to put it in the D tier, maybe it's C tier though. I'll put it at like the bottom of C tier. I mean, personally, I never take it because I'm kind of risk averse. But I've definitely seen some like high rolls, and like if you can get 2 usable emblems, then it is pretty decent. But since the removal of like prismatic traits that use the emblem, I generally consider like Wandering Trainers to be like a lot weaker than like previous sets. And yeah, maybe the meta is just not like as like the emblems are not like good and like balanced enough that like if you get like an Edgelord emblem, like you kind of just lost the game, right? So next is going to be Water Lotus. I'd say it's like a B tier, like okay, kind of average combat option. If we're playing like Sorix, Prodigy, whatever, a comp that wants spell crit and we don't already have spell crit built, then it can be a pretty good combat option. Worth the Wait 2 is going to be C or D tier. I think it's just too risky that it has to be in the D tier. Like even the high rolls are not so great, and the low rolls are kind of just like instantly losing the game. I do consider it like a D tier augment. Back to the circlets. Wraith circlet. Vertical Wraith is pretty weak right now. It's probably in the D tier. And this one, Malzahar is getting a buff next patch, but I don't really anticipate like Vertical Wraith Malzahar to be, you know, super good or popular. So I might just leave it in the D tier. And yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for the Prismatic Augment tier list. The S tier is a little bit exclusive, but I do feel like these augments are just like so good in every spot, and like they kind of just are in a tier of their own. Like I don't consider these A tier augments to be on the same level as like Living Forge and Radiant Refractor. Just being like so good in every comp, every board, every spot. I'm just like always above average options no matter what. And whereas like, you know, maybe in like certain spots these A tier augments can be like as good, but I'm just a little bit more like conditional and stuff. And I'll zoom out in case anyone wants like to take a screenshot. Yeah, I guess like the main takeaways you can kind of see is that I'm quite low on circlets. An emblem for Prismatic Augment is usually not worth it. Maybe there's some spots where it is. And most of the ones that I think there are some spots where it's worth it, I have put them in like C tier or B tier. But yeah, a lot of these D tier emblems are never worth it. But you might not also be seeing them too often because you have to have the trait in to see them in the first place. And yeah, keep in mind this is also kind of at the challenger level. I think, you know, if you're playing in like some lower levels, you can definitely get away with more. You can get away with taking stuff like Golden Egg and Pumping Up and Spoils of War like a lot more, but it just doesn't really fly at like a challenger level. And next there's going to be like two 2 new augments in the next patch, 2 new prismatic augments, because they're actually removing pipeline, I believe. They're both combat. The first one is Giant and Mighty, which gives 300 HP and 4% HP. I would estimate it at like probably like an A tier augment, probably really good in like vertical tank setups, like vertical Juggernaut, vertical Bastion. Probably also good in, you know, stuff like Star Guardian, stuff like Mech Mentor. So I think it's probably going to be a really flexible and solid option. It's probably going to be like a 3-2, 4-2 type of augment. I don't know if it'll be offered on 2-1, but we probably won't want to take it then. As for Tiny but Deadly, I'm a bit lower on it. Maybe like a B or C tier augment. The fighters now get like built-in attack speed, so it's not really as good on them. And there's not really too many comps that want like tons of like flat attack speed in the current era, like similar to like why pumping up is not so good. Maybe it's pretty good in like Duelists and stuff like that, or like Ashe setups. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for the tier list. Thank you guys for watching.